Good morning, everyone. It's Friday, December 13th. It's 9:15 a.m. Eastern Time. We're live on YouTube and Discord land. Hope everyone's having a nice Friday morning. Let's look at the pre-market tape. The S&P futures are up 0.25%. NASDAQ is up 0.68%. Dow is flat. Russell is down 1.4%. VIX futures are down 1.4%. Treasuries are down. Longer terms more than short. Gold is down 1%. Crude oil is up 0.5%. Nat gas is down 2.3%. Bitcoin is up 0.5%. Asian markets are mixed. No, they're not. They're down. They're both down. All of them. Every single one of them. The Nikkei is down, ended down 1%. Shanghai Index ended down 2.2%. And the FTSE ended flat. The U.S. dollar is up 0.5%. How about Broadcom? Sorry, Ben's portfolio is up 0.5%. Like just this morning? Or for the year? I'd like to congratulate all the retail traders that easily beat a vast majority of hedge fund managers this year. I wonder if that's an indicator. Retail performance versus hedge funds. And if retail beats hedge funds, like the markets are going to crash the following year or something. That'd be interesting. $45% cash factored in. That's a lot of cash. King D, good morning, everything. Good morning. How fares the Irish land? Is your portfolio as green as the land? Well, I suppose it might be a bit white. It is green. Okay, good. There's nothing wrong with being white. All right, let's look at some news. Oh, NASDAQ broke a record yesterday. 20K on the NASDAQ index. Is it there right now? Let's find out. Oh, yes, it's definitely above 20K. That was a few days ago, wasn't it? So we'll say that was this week. The NDX. Yeah, man. NASDAQ has had a great year. Although I think it's fairly in line with the S&P. And, of course, the Dow is lagging, as always. How many times have I said it now? They should have added Broadcom instead of NVIDIA. Oh. Yeah, I wonder if they're having a buyer's remorse there. Warner Brothers finally did something. They are restructuring into two divisions. Sounds great already. Signaling readiness for potential acquisitions, mergers, or spinoffs as analysts predict a media M&A surge in 2025. The company's stock surged 15% on the news. Here's the interesting thing. If what's his name? Is that Zaslav? If he had said last year we are going to acquire another company. I think early this year he did say something along those lines, or there was speculation, right, that they were going to merge with Paramount, or they were going to, something like that. Investors sold the stock. So if it's about M&A, I don't think this they're magically in a better position. If it's about spin-offs, I am for it. I think the company has a lot of unvaluable content. I think they just acquired too much, thinking they were going to be like the big streaming, the big cable package, whatever. But they were never going to be able to compete with the, likes of like Netflix and Amazon. I mean, they have some good shows, they have some good content, but I think they should have stuck to what worked and just focused on that instead of acquiring a bunch of smaller platforms. Don't even know if they're profitable. Maybe they have a few networks that are like Hulu, where a lot of people don't think much of Hulu, but Hulu is actually one of the most profitable streaming platforms. So I don't know. Maybe they got unpopular platforms that are actually highly profitable. But at any rate, I'm sure they have plenty of content that just should be scrapped. But also Warner Brothers is it's sort of just moving with a lot of beating up small mid caps over the past few months. So perhaps some portfolio rebalancing. Most stocks are getting love these days, so we'll see if it holds. I think Warner Brothers. We'll see what Zaslav does, what they announce. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt if they got a little bit more creative with their content. That'd be nice. Costco beat first quarter estimates with earnings per share of $4.04 versus $3.79 expected, and revenue of $62.15 billion versus the $62.08 billion forecast. E-commerce sales rose 13% and membership fees grew 8% to $1.17 billion. Shares are up 50% year to date. Costco still appears to be one of those stocks you just hold your breath and dive in. They are down slightly, ever so slightly. They closed at $988 a share yesterday, trading at $980 right now. Yeah, Costco is just a beast. You would think somebody would have been able to compete by now, but apparently not. Broadcom is up. Let's see. How much are they up? 19% after beating expectations for the fourth quarter of their fiscal year. It's driven by a 220% year-over-year increase in AI revenue. They'll also raise their quarterly dividend by 11% in fiscal year 2025. Kind of crazy to think that Broadcom had, I think it was about a 3% dividend yield last year. If somebody had told you there was a company that's in AI with massive growth, sexy tech stock, semiconductors, everything, and they're going to be one of the biggest winners of that race, and they have a 3% dividend. How would you not buy that company? AI revenue, that's right. Oh, nice little dip on Broadcom here. It just dropped $2.50 real fast. Everybody load up. No, I'm just kidding. Meta's new AI model, Meta Motivo, which is used to improve digital avatar realism, alongside a new large concept model. These are both unveiled for advanced reasoning in language tasks. Meta's AI investments have pushed its annual capital expenses to a record $37 billion to $40 billion. Is this still metaverse? Let's see. Digital avatar realism. I hope that didn't cost too much. Shareholders don't seem to be concerned about that. I think they've forgiven Zuckerberg because of all the money he made them. Google and Samsung partner on a headset. Next year, Google and Samsung will launch a mixed reality headset powered by a new Android XR operating system, aiming to compete with Apple's Vision Pro and Meta's Quest 3. I honestly forgot Apple had a VR headset or a mixed reality headset. Completely forgot about that. Does anyone have one? Didn't it have some ridiculous price tag? I think it's probably the beginning of this year. Maybe it was the end of last year. I can't remember. I don't know if I was talking to you guys about this. I know I was talking to my Indian homeboy, talking about the marketability of mixed reality headsets, and it isn't there. It just doesn't work because I think the vast majority of the population just doesn't want to wear it on their freaking face. And even if it's practical in everyday life, not just at a desk or when you're playing video games or whatever, you don't want to walk around with that. I think Meta has the right idea with the glasses, but from what I've read, the battery's not very good, and I think you still have a bit of a bias against them. I'm curious to try them just to go out, hang out with friends, alleged friends, and just have the glasses, and then when they say, is that a little camera on your glasses, just to see how they feel about that. I think just the idea of having a camera on your glasses, you could just record at any point in time. Yeah, I don't know if people, I don't know who wants to be that person that's wearing such a device, much less an entire headset. You want to go to the bar with a headset on? Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get why spend all that money. I mean, okay, target the gamers, I suppose, right? Like, make it a niche target, I suppose, if the market's big enough, right? But to try to convince everybody or put a really high price tag on it, yeah, I don't think that works. I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. I think they need to come up with something else, and then they need to solve the. I'm sure there's a stigma against people having a recording device on their face at all times. I mean, you guys have seen videos of like Karens, like holding their phones up, recording everything. Nobody likes them. You don't want to be a Karen. Markets just opened. Relatively unchanged from about 15 minutes ago. SPY's up 0.25%. NASDAQ's up 0.75%. That's 0.75% for you not math wizards. Dow's up 0.07%. Russell's down 0.25%. More news. The SEC has reopened an investigation into Neuralink, Elon Musk's brain chip startup, alongside a 48-hour settlement demand over Musk's $44 billion Twitter takeover in 2022. Seeing how Musk is, second most powerful person in the world now, I'm sure he could just dismiss the case or investigate himself and conclude that he is indeed not guilty. Yeah, I bet he'd probably charge the SEC. YouTube TV, I mentioned this yesterday, they have hiked their monthly subscription price by 14% to $83 a month, citing rising content costs. The hike matches Hulu's pricing and takes effect January 13th for existing users. Anybody pay for YouTube TV? I think I've only had a free trial. Your parents have YouTube TV? Waste of money? Like, not like trash waste, like belt line waste of money. I get it. I get it. Reality show contestants deemed employees. U.S. regulators have classified contestants on Netflix's show Love is Blind as employees, citing labor violations including unlawful non-compete clauses. If upheld, the ruling could reshape reality TV labor practices. You know, I was just thinking about the people that are suffering the most in this world, and it was the reality TV stars, so I'm really glad justice is being served. BuzzFeed spins off their media company. BuzzFeed sold First We Feast, the company behind the renowned interview show Hot Ones, to an investor group for $82.5 million. Investor group. Hang on, isn't it like BlackRock or something? Or one of those banks or asset management. The deal cuts BuzzFeed's $124 million debt by $89 million, easing their financial pressure. It's very nice. Sounds like a donation. Flushing Financial, ticker's FFIC, plans to raise $70 million by selling stock at $15 to $15.50 per share below its $17.25 close to offset losses from offloading low-yield bonds and commercial real estate loans. Flushing Financial, that's a company I forget exists. Yeah, markets definitely didn't like that. It's down 9.5%. Last bit of news, Novo Nordisk's kidney disease claims. Novo Nordisk received European approval to update Ozempic's label to include reduced risk of kidney disease based on trial data. A U.S. label update is expected by mid-2025. I suppose that helps. Novo Nordisk should do fairly well over the next few years considering their presence in China. They just got approval. And I think they're ahead in terms of what they're talking about. They're working on oral medication. And I think they have 2 drugs being tested. Expected it to to be submitted for approval, I believe, next year. And I think Eli Lilly has one for 2026. Now that I finished the Friday morning school announcements, would anyone like to come up and ruin the live YouTube feed? Andy, where's Andy? Would you like to come up and burp live? King D, anything to say? Yes, $83 a month for YouTube TV. I actually don't know what all you get with YouTube TV. Like, the price tag is high, but as Ben has mentioned, isn't it an actually, like, compared to legacy cable packages, isn't it actually still a pretty good deal? It's just expensive. And I suppose now the case that you might make is, well, who's actually spending all that time watching cable TV these days? You kids and your TikTok and your Vine. Oh, you're on work PC. Right on. All right, let's look at some stocks. Why don't we check the little flex grid here? Broadcom is now up 20%. How big is Broadcom? Let's see. Oh, now they're past the $1 trillion mark. Fancy that. Apple's up 0.5%. Amazon's up 0.17%. Google is down the same amount. Meta is flat. Microsoft is flat. Nvidia is up 0.8%. SPY overall is up 0.35%. We need to look into IPTV. Pray tell, why do we need to look into IPTV? Good morning, Andy.
Good morning. What is IPTV?
I don't know, but Flooded is informing me that we all need to look into them. Like as a stock or as a service? You give me a 4-letter acronym, I'm going to assume it's a stock.
Streaming.
Did I come across much regarding GAN in my semiconductor researches? No, is a short answer. But speaking of that, I did release the report for semiconductors for my wealthy donors. Yeah, so that report is meant to be straightforward and just look at what I think matters most, without getting too much into the weeds. So what the report talks about, and it has a spreadsheet, and yeah, I'd like to receive feedback on the spreadsheet, see if you guys actually like it, and then maybe I could do something like that going forward with other reports. But the whole point is to look at, say, maybe macroeconomic factors, and then see which stocks might actually be trading at a value. So there were 4 criteria there. There was the CapEx cycle, and which is how well the company has historically made investments in relation to future revenue growth. So I checked every single stock over the past, I would say, 10 years to see how well they've done with that. And for that, there were only, 4 companies that were industry leaders. and you can guess at least one of them. So yeah, there's CapEx timing, or are they predictive of trends? Are they in line with trends, or do they fall behind trends? And yeah, seeing the companies that fall behind, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So that was one criteria. The second criteria was just overall, what type of business do they have? How cyclical is it? Or is it secular? And again, you could probably guess at least one of them that would be secular. Secular being a more favorable trend, a trend that tends to be stronger than just a cyclical trend, tends to last many years longer, much more popular, and can withstand short-term cyclicality, or rather can manage through short-term cyclicality far better than than stocks that aren't really capitalizing on secular trends. Not too many companies have been capitalizing on secular trends, even though you would think they have been, or people would assume because of their positioning, because of how specific their product or service is. Maybe they have a somewhat of an economic moat. Maybe there aren't any other businesses that do what they do. None of that actually means they're capitalizing on secular trends. So the way I surmised that was I looked at the revenue, and I looked at the past 10 years, looked at forward estimates, and if their revenue was all over the place, growing some years, down other years, that's cyclical. If their revenue was, for the most part, up, maybe one down year, and you can kind of see the spikes in revenue based on AI, based on let's say like 5G, based on EVs, stuff like that. But they didn't see similar downside, then they were marked as secular. A lot of companies that I think people think are in the best position, yeah, they don't make the cut. They really don't. It's a lot of big name companies too. So CapEx timing, business, are they secular or cyclical? And some are just stable. Some are just solid. They're not too bothered by cyclicality. The remaining two criteria were, growth, forward growth, and that was either high, moderate, or low. High being greater than 10% over the next 2 years, and then valuation. So valuation was relative, and it was these companies relative to their own valuation range. And I think there were only 3 out of all the semiconductor chip stocks I looked at, 19 in total, which was based on the list of the top 20 most liquid U.S. Traded semiconductor chip stocks. The reason why it's 19, not 20, is because Skyworks is there, but Skyworks has over 50% of its revenue sourced from Apple. So to me, that's kind of it's a proxy for Apple, not its own semiconductor chip stock. But 19 companies total. Only 3 were trading at based on their valuation range, trading at a relative low valuation. So I find that interesting because a lot of semiconductor chip stocks have just tanked. And, classic, a lot of retail traders will see price go down. Therefore, that automatically means it's a buy. Yeah, I don't think that's the case for most of these stocks. I think they rode the wave. And then as the market started getting more picky, AI started, the trend started evolving. Now more trends are emerging. Yeah, the markets are shaking out the ones that didn't actually deserve all those gains. And that's where you're seeing cyclicality. So it just so happens that the valuations in stock prices, they are reflecting which companies are actually in great positions and which had just kind of rode the wave. They were just along for the ride. So, yeah, so I sort of expressed that in just those 4 criteria, and they're just little drop-down boxes. You guys that subscribed, you can download a copy of the spreadsheet. The links in the investors section. So yeah, I think it's pretty handy, and it's not really like a buy these stocks. I have my picks, but it's more of a decide based on what you what you want to invest in, but I think it's a pretty good guide. And frankly, there are plenty of stocks to choose from, so I don't even think you need to look that hard. But yeah, happy to hear how you guys feel about the spreadsheet, because I do want to know if that's the kind of thing you would want for like one report a month. It's a very long answer to your question, Ben. I did not get in depth with the specific products or services that each company provides. But for me, I mean, I look at growth estimates. So if 50 analysts agree that a company is going to grow revenue over 10%, all right, I'm inclined to believe them. If most of them agree, if the consensus is this company isn't really growing, or they're going to have negative growth this year or next year, I kind of don't care what people think of their products or services. I'm going to side with the analyst. And the estimates are going to change, of course, but these guys are paid to analyze that industry and to make projections. And if they were terrible at it, well, they wouldn't have their job for too much longer. Their opinions and their price targets, now those are all over the place. And I don't really trust those, to be honest. But their analysis of a business and their consensus on how any company's business will grow, that I will definitely take into consideration. And it allows me to kind of skip the part where I do a deep dive onto, is this company, do they have a monopoly? Do they have a moat? I'll still look at moat, but yeah, I don't need to learn about every single sub-industry in the semiconductor space. Not really. And I don't think that's how overall markets think either. Institutional buying is based on broad exposure. Okay, AI is a big thing. Institutions are going to load up on any stock that has anything to do with AI. You saw it with all those companies that just changed their name to include AI, and then they were just bought up. So a lot of evidence to markets just buying what they think has great exposure. And then over time, the losers they're shaken out. So I think as long as you have good basic criteria, such as what I presented in the spreadsheet, you're not going to be buying into the hype, Broadcom's now up 22%. As if it's the last AI stock. That is insane.
Yeah, good morning. Broadcom's up 22% and AMD is down.
Yeah, good morning,
I saw
Zev.
AMD listed as a turnaround play, and you wrote that like it had fair valuation and it was a turnaround play. Could you describe the difference in appeal for AMD versus like something like ASML?
Appeal for AMD versus something like ASML. A few things. One, they're in they're in different parts of the supply chain, right? So a company like ASML, they are meant to be predictive when it comes to the business cycle, right? Because they're kind of like, they're one of the, I suppose, they're early in the supply chain. I'll just put it that way. AMD historically and even now, I don't think they've actually ever had like a very strong competitive positioning. And I mean, they've been able to compete, and there was a point where they started taking a lot of market share. But in terms of like how I view them relative to ASML, I would just point to the criteria that I put in that spreadsheet. So, in other words, I would look at like I mentioned, ASML. They're meant to be predictive. They are. They have great management over the years. AMD, would you describe their management, their investments as predictive of future trends? One of the things I would consider is, okay, what about the AI trend? How is AMD doing in terms of that? Are they an industry leader? They kind of fell behind NVIDIA, and now they're trying to catch up. They did well with gaming, but I don't know that was like a secular trend or that was predictive of anything. I think they were just kind of riding the wave. And you know, well, big stimulus, so yeah, gamers had a lot of money to buy new chips. But and then back in the day, right, what was it, like 2016, 17, 18? That was when gamers started shifting to the Ryzen, right? So good job there, but that was just, I guess, overall competition, not necessarily predictive of secular trends, or just emerging trends rather. And the thing I see with AMD now is, say you look back, and okay, if they haven't exactly been able to capitalize, or they haven't been at the forefront of all these emerging trends, what about now? So I think now they're probably in a good position. I think Lisa Su, she's a pretty good CEO, and all she's been talking about is inference with AI, with the chatbots and everything. So I think they're making the right moves, and I think maybe they've learned, but frankly, they still have. I think they still have a lot to prove. So that's why I'd call them a bit of a turnaround stock. Yeah, so it's like we'll see. So I would call AMD a turnaround stock as I would call Intel a turnaround stock. So it doesn't mean like they're gonna do it. I just think it means that they are probably. It's likely they're at an inflection point, but you know, we'll see. We'll see what happens, because historically we don't have the data to support the claim that, oh yeah, they're coming back because they've done it every time before. And not really. And then in terms of valuation, that's just what you're paying, right? So like valuation doesn't indicate whether they are a turnaround stock or the business is doing really, really well or whatever. I mean, if the valuation is really high for stocks, then you can hazard a guess and say, yeah, it's probably because they're doing really well, right? And vice versa. Low means they're doing poorly. But the valuation is just the premium or discount you're paying, all considered for the business. Doesn't necessarily mean that business isn't or is going to have a good turnaround or is going to do well in the future. All right. What else we got here? How we doing? Broadcom's I think it's pushing the SPY and NASDAQ higher, because from the looks of it, yeah, the other Mag 7, they are all flat or down. I guess NVIDIA's up 0.8%, but yeah, I think Broadcom I think they're carrying hard right now. How are those puts looking? They're kind of expensive, to be honest, for 0 DTEs. Annualized cost of 2,000%. Nice. Maybe we could do a spread. Let's see. What do I do? Maybe next week. This is a hell of a run. Man. He just launched. That is insane. Let's see what we can do on a put spread. What does this get me? I don't feel like rushing into shorting Broadcom right now. Let me just buy some gamble puts. Let's buy some 200s. Nothing crazy. Yeah, let's just fire. Let's fire away at some small amount of gamble puts for next week. Chewy Vester, AMD or Intel considering this price point? Why not both? I mean, one of them has done a lot better than the other, so it depends what you're looking for. Do you want to try to catch a falling knife on Intel? Or do you want to trust that AMD's going to have its place next to NVIDIA? Am I still confident in my Amazon and Intel plays? I'm always confident. Look, I make a lot of trades. So as long as, for me personally, I want to know that 60% of my trades work out. And which honestly is kind of high of an expectation because I don't just, and I guess when I say trades, I mean like shorter term trades. Long-term investments, oh no, I'm closer to like 75%, which is just fantastic because I use leverage there, so no problems there. But short-term trades, if I can hit 60%, that's the bar for myself. I'm extremely happy because the fact is I could probably hit 40% and make money. So what was it? Last month was not too many trades, but in what was it, like a 2-week time frame? 88% of trades were positive, average return of 50%. I don't know if you guys are math nerds, but if you annualize 50% over 2 weeks, yeah, to the guy that said you didn't see any big returns recently, might I introduce you to compounded returns? Not that I'm going to do 88% every 2 weeks, but or sorry, 50% every returns every 2 weeks, but hell, I'll take 20%.
Look at GPM this morning.
How are they looking?
Like shit.
Like shit. Oh, well, actually, okay. How are them 0DTs? Oh, look at those really cheap. Okay, yep. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, I'll take those. Why not? All right, no gamble in the future. I think JPM's kind of been getting beat up. Yeah, okay. I might just go to next week. I mean, I bought 0DTs, but I think 250 seems high now. Let's see. Oh, they got earnings coming up January 15th. Volatility is a bit high for JPM. Interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not liking the prices actually. I just look also. I'm like, maybe not. I'm gonna wait on it.
How's the liquidity on the weeklies. Not the best, not the worst.
What?
Yeah, I don't think I would do a spread on the weeklies. It's got to be no gamble, no future. Uh, 14 days, strike 250. Why not? Let's do some of those as well. Do just a bit less. Spread out this bet a bit. Okay. I was about to say 1 cent. You won't give me 1 cent? All right. All right, no gamble, no future on JPM. Yeah, so what was I saying? If I'm at, say, 80% success with my short-term trades, and maybe you have a market like the one you have now, when it's just been on a tear, it's just one direction straight up, I am A-okay with making some speculative bets, especially if they're biased towards downside. So that's one. I guess you mentioned Amazon and Intel. Intel's just a short to midterm play. I think they're going to get some love at the turn of the year. All they have to do is say, guess what? We're focused on quantum computing now. That's all they have to say. Easy. Maybe I'll send them an email, a tweet. But that's speculative, but I think they're going to get some love because of portfolio rebalancing following the end of this year. And frankly, Intel, Intel's like they're like the Disney princess of the semiconductor world. Like they think they're going to be rescued, but it's just not going to happen. It's not reality. So they're going to have to figure it out themselves. I don't know exactly how they're going to do that because frankly, they're not catching up to TSM. But they could carve out a niche for themselves. It's going to require more CapEx. I don't know if they've already positioned themselves for quantum computing. Even if they have, it might take like 5 to 10 years for them to reap rewards on that. However, none of that says that some good marketing wouldn't help. And if they get a good CEO, unlike the last guy that was just praying for good returns, that could help a lot. So Intel's definitely at a point where I don't know how much lower the stock price can go. Honestly, don't know. But if they get just a bit of good news, that could send the stock price up over the next few months. We'll see. So it's speculative, but yeah, I think market positioning is that's more. I'm more so betting on that than the idea that Intel's just going to announce something that's, lollipops and gumdrops for the markets and investors. Okay, back to Amazon. So Amazon, I'll just cut to the chase. Amazon is a short-term hedge on this crazy market rally, and I'll just show it right here. So what I like to do is, let's see, we're looking at 5-day. Let's see, I'm going to zoom out a bit.
Oh yeah.
Let's look at 20-day. So I like to look at the Mag 7. And they tend to move together, wouldn't you know? And what I look for is dispersion. When I see dispersion between them, I like to take a directional bet on one stock that I think will say is due for a bit of a rebound or a bit of a drop, so that it can either kind of fall back in line with the other Mag 7, just in general short-term price movement, or it experiences or it can like catch up a bit, and you could call that mean
inversion. Could you define dispersion?
What's that?
Could you define dispersion?
Dispersion is simply when you have stocks moving independently of each other. So right now, for example, you have clear winners in the markets and you have a lot of clear losers. So you might describe that as a lot of dispersion within the markets versus, say, 2021. Everything was just going up. Or you could even look at like the past couple months. Small caps. Is there dispersion in small caps? I don't see it. So everything's just moving together. There's at some point the markets are going to pick the winners, sell the losers, right? So you're going to see that happen at small caps. That's not just that's not just me hating small caps, for example, but you will see that at some point, and it happens every time, particularly with small caps. So for the Mag 7, they do tend to move together. Fairly high correlation, fairly low dispersion. So when I start to see one of the stocks kind of like leave the pack, so to speak, that's when I'm looking to make a trade. But it's not always enough to say, okay, this one's moved slightly higher, therefore I'm going to short it. Usually I need to have another reason, or I'm going to want another reason, such as, all right, we had a tremendous rally over the short term, over the midterm, whatever. If I were going to short the markets at these levels, or if momentum's slowing down for one of these stocks, which one is it? So like now you might look at Broadcom and say momentum's really strong, but it's definitely pulled away from the pack, especially when you look at semiconductors, because now NVIDIA's looking like the laggard. So overall, I'll look at short to midterm. I'll look over a few weeks, maybe a few months, and I'll make my play based on the time frame that I'm most concerned with. So yeah, say like I know most people say, "Oh, you bought puts on Amazon. Why do you hate Amazon?" It almost has nothing to do with the business. It's just a number being compared to other big numbers. That's it. And so far, I think I'm making money on it, so that's nice. But really, I'm thinking, okay, what happens if there's suddenly we have a short-term drop in the S&P? So, which stocks have been flying high? Which stocks do I think will have a bigger drop relative to others? I don't know if you guys have seen Amazon on certain down days. It'll move down 4 or 5%. So we'll see. It's speculative, but again, it's based on the idea of dispersion, throwing some mean reversion there, and it's a hedge, a short-term hedge. Nothing to do with Bezos or the new CEO. Yeah.
Time to buy back into P-Fizzer.
P-Fizzer?
P-Fizzer.
YouTube chat is blowing up. I have a record comment count of 0.
Ooh. Congrats, Mr. Popular.
So yeah, if we're looking at this now, okay, say I looked at Google yesterday, right? So before Broadcom reported, and I said, you know what? Google's had a really big run up. Why wouldn't I buy puts on Google? Well, that's where momentum comes into play. Why wouldn't I do it? I mean, look what they just announced. So it's a hell of a lot of momentum. Market sentiment is reflected in momentum, or momentum reflects market sentiment, I should say. So yeah, maybe I don't want to short Google. What if they just keep riding that momentum? More updates about quantum computing or anything else they're working on that's as fantastic. NVIDIA is interesting now because they're definitely lagging. So, so yeah, now I would look at NVIDIA and say, okay, overall, do I want to make a bullish play on semiconductors for the sake of mean reversion and dispersion? Not sure. Funny thing is, looking at valuations for all the semiconductor chip stocks, NVIDIA looks much better than so many other companies. All right.
Spy's coming back down, so.
Yeah. Let's see. For YouTube, I might cut it to under an hour for today.
I see there's 3 people watching.
Oh, are there? Well, I
It's
imagine some of those
huge.
people are here.
Yeah.
Oh, now there are 4. Yeah, very nice. I did notice that some of them, they tend to get on a little bit later, so I don't know if they're on the West Coast or in Texas where you don't have to work. But yeah, if you're not if you haven't really considered like, looking at the Mag 7, considering dispersion stuff like that, yeah, you should just make a little flex grid like the one I have here. Put up the Mag 7. I mean, you could throw in Tesla, but in my experience, Tesla doesn't exactly move with the other 7 stocks. And well, I was going to say JP Morgan. JP Morgan I treat separately, to be honest. So, yeah, I would say just look at the Mag 7. NVIDIA can often move on its own, or it can have stronger moves, such as what we're seeing now. But, yeah, I mean, there are even free websites. You can look at correlations between them over the past 3 months. That might give you an idea of good trade setups. And then you can sort of, instead of just saying, I'm going to buy calls on NVIDIA because it looks low compared to the other ones, maybe instead of that, you say, I'm going to look at Broadcom, maybe buying puts because I think semis are running a bit hot and I think the market's running a bit hot. And Broadcom has absolutely pulled ahead of the pack. Something like that, right? Better than just saying, I don't like Amazon puts expiring next week. So, but yeah, all this it's based on probabilities and statistics and overall market movement. And then throw in the fact that, yeah, I'm trying to hedge. So if I didn't need to hedge short-term movement, probably would not have made that trade on Amazon, to be honest. So hedging might take precedent over everything else. Actually, it usually does. Yeah, I should say that, yeah. And another reason I think the strategy is great for the Mag 7 is because of the liquidity. And typically you're not paying a tremendous amount for calls or puts. Like, say, for example, you try to do this with small caps. You know, what are the big, I don't know, 5, 8 small cap stocks, right? Or we'll say small to mid caps. Meme stocks, right? You're going to pay so much money for those calls and those puts, and you're making a very strong directional bet. Amazon moves down $1, I'm making money. I'm making 10 to 15% per dollar movement. That's not bad. Which is that's another thing. Well, I guess the term would be lambda, but how much money, how many dollars are you making per dollar of risk and relative to the movement, right? So, for example, a short-term bearish play on Amazon might be way more efficient than a short-term bearish play on, say, Palantir. Amazon can move down 5%, and I might make more on those weekly puts than I would make on a twice the move on Palantir because of how much I'm paying for their puts. This happens all the time, and I see a lot of people making plays, short-term plays, and they'll choose the most popular, most expensive stock to trade, but that stock, it moves with other stocks. So the way I see it is, why don't you choose the cheapest one to trade? You're not making a play on one company. You're making a play on either an industry, a trend, or the entire market. So just choose wisely. Choose the cheapest one, the cheapest options. You don't even need it to move that much. The percentage movement of the underlying does not directly translate into a percentage gain on your options trade. They're derivatives, right? So, yeah, and derivatives you can overpay for derivatives. And you can be underpaid for being right. Probably going to change the title of the YouTube video. I said, let's talk about this rally. Didn't really talk about the rally too much, but That's all right. I think you got other somewhat useful information. Disagreement is encouraged, but I am going to end the YouTube stream. We'll keep it going in Discord. We'll look at the tape real quick before we call it a day. For YouTube, that is. S&P futures are up 0.14%. NASDAQ is up 0.95%. Dow is down 0.14%. Should have added Broadcom. Russell is down 0.6%. VIX futures are down 1.8%. Treasury is still down. Gold is down 1.2%. Crude is up 1%. Nat gas is down 3.7%. Bitcoin is up 1.5%, holding above 100K. And the dollar is up 0.6% versus other currencies. All right, YouTube people. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. See you guys Monday or in the Discord channel. Ciao.